Okay, YouTubers, this is the Ingrid Prepper. So, today's video, guys, we're going to ask the question, what do they know and how bad is it going to get? Now, that question, guys, is in regards to Disease X. Now, I did a video on it just the other day, but there is something more peculiar about the discussion of Disease X, which is a hypothetical disease, a disease that hasn't happened yet, and a disease that they're thinking that if it does happen, that it's going to kill more people. Now, I find it interesting, guys, that they're worried about a disease that's not even around, that hasn't come to fruition yet, that hasn't made itself known. And they're worried about this disease, but they are so sure that this disease is going to be 20 times worse than Mr. 19 and that it's going to kill 50 million people. I find that to be more alarming that they have these numbers or these projected numbers already. How do they know? Hell, the next pandemic could be a walk in the park. But nonetheless, they have these fixed numbers of 50 million people passing away and how it's going to be 20 times worse than Mr. 19. In fact, they gave us an image, if you will, of imagine that the next outbreak spreads like the measles, but has a fatality rate of over 67%, which is Ebola. So of course they have their numbers, they have this image already set out and squared away. Now in Davos, they're going to be discussing Disease X, the hypothetical pandemic that could happen, that could sweep the world, as they put it, that is lying dormant somewhere on this planet, but when it gets released, it's going to wipe out this many people. Now, they have their numbers set again, but which is even more alarming is the fact that they are working on an arm ticket for something that does not exist yet. How do you work on an arm ticket and how you work on therapeutics for this Disease X without having a disease to tackle? That is the more alarming thing, and the reason why it's more alarming, because if they have a set number in mind, 50 million people that could pass away, and it being 20 times worse than Mr. 19, COVID, now they're working on arm tickets and therapeutics for this unknown disease. Does that mean that they have this disease already in mind? That they have one that's locked and loaded and ready to rock and roll, but they need to come out with an arm ticket for it? Because again, even with all of this knowledge that they're discussing in Davos, even with all of the checks, or the marks checked off, rather, sorry. Even with all that going on, even with them hypothetically speaking about all this stuff, they still have to get past the 100 days, which they are swearing on, that the arm ticket could be created in 100 days. And 100 days exactly. Not 101, not 99, not 50 days, 100 days. This is the goal that they're setting for themselves to come out with a new arm ticket, which I find, again, to be a little telling. So now you have all of this in the mix, guys. For them to come out with an arm ticket in 100 days, you still cannot get around the testing factor unless, like I said before, they already have the pandemic or the Disease X. They already have it ready to rock and roll, and they already have the arm ticket ready to rock and roll, and they already did the research on it. Or they don't care about any of the research on the arm ticket, and they're just going to release it and see what happens with the people. Because you still need to do a long-term study. That's the problem. No matter what comes out, guys, it needs to be long-term. We have medications out there that are in testing phase for years before they release it. But with this, they're like, 3 months is good enough. Let's just get it out there, and we'll deal with the repercussions later. And now what are we seeing with the repercussions? We're watching people like Snoop Dogg's daughter come down with a stroke or had a stroke. We had Michael Strahan's daughter with her brain tumor. We have numerous people passing away at a very young age. And that's the repercussions that they're going to deal with. But they're not really dealing with the repercussions because there is no repercussions for them. They're not getting in trouble. No one's making the connection that it's the arm ticket. They're just like, oh, how unfortunate that these young people are dying. In fact, they even released an article saying that doctors are baffled by the increase in cancers. Go figure. So anyway, with all of that being said, guys, the arm ticket for the Disease X that hasn't happened yet, They don't even know what it is. It's interesting that they're working on this, and people are still not putting two and two together. They're not like, well, wait a minute. How can you work on something that doesn't exist yet? How can you come up with therapeutics and an arm ticket to protect us from something that doesn't exist yet? It's like a college professor at a school telling his students to study. And then the students are asking the professor, what do we study on? What's the subject on? Just read. But what do you want us to read specifically? For what? I don't know. I could be testing you on anything that you learned in this entire school, entire college. And students are like, it doesn't make any sense. You're going to give us a test on something that we don't know what it is, but you want us to test on, you want us to study everything? That's exactly what's going on with this arm ticket. They're going to throw everything they can into this if they're not being nefarious, if you will. If they're not being nefarious and they're being on a level and or stupid, they're going to throw everything that they possibly can into this arm ticket to see if it's going to protect us or not. You still have to do human trial, and human trials is still a few months, if not a year or so of testing. You can't just throw some shit together and be like, Godspeed. They did it already. They did it already with Mr. 19. Nonetheless, guys, this new thing that comes out, it has a 20%, it's going to be 20 times more deadlier than Mr. 19 and kill 50 million people, but you're going to rush out an arm ticket to protect us? That means more people are going to die on top of the 50 million people dying from disease X. So again, could this be part of depopulation? Could be. Could this be something that they're really concerned about and they want to protect us? That could be it as well. Though I doubt it, nonetheless it could be. All of this, guys, is coulds and mights. This is not definite. I don't want to sound like I'm coming off as definite, though. In my personal opinion, I think they definitely do have something lined up. I think they definitely already have the arm ticket ready to rock and roll. They're just going to let us breathe a little bit and then release some new shit. Not to mention, guys, that you also had the Chinese come out with a brain virus, which is being dubbed now, that has a 100% fatality rate. You also have that in the mix. That's going to kill way more than 50 million people, though 8 days from the time you're infected to the time you die, at least that's what happened with the mice, 8 days. That could burn itself out fairly quick, especially people quarantine themselves. Still, the problem is, guys, you have all of this going on, and then you have the SPARS pandemic PDF file that they're also probably going to be discussing at Davos as well. So again, all of these things are happening, all of these made-up pandemics and made-up diseases, these hypothetical situations that they're all spitballing all at once at Davos, with the exception of the brain virus, if you will, with a 100% kill rate. That's not hypothetical, that's real. So they're going to be discussing all of this and probably how they can handle it and how they could deal with it. Could they release it and not affect these people? Can these people be protected? Whatever it might be, they're discussing our demise. And again, this is in my opinion, that at Davos they're discussing our demise. That's the only thing I can come up with. Anyway, guys, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching.